Okay, the last two things we discussed were solving quadratic equations by factoring and using the quadratic formula. There's one other way to do it, and that's by completing the square. So, what you need to know to complete the square is the first thing you do is put the c value on the other side. So it's by itself. Then you factor out a. Complete the square. By adding b over 2 squared to both sides and factoring, and then you solve. So you put the c value on the other side so it is by itself, factor out a, complete the square by adding b over 2 squared to both sides and factoring, and solve. So I want to go through these with you using an example. So, let's say my example is four x squared plus 16x minus 9 equals 0. So the first thing I do is put the c value on the other side so it is by itself. So I have 4x squared plus 16x equals 9. Okay, now I factor out an a value. So, what is the a value here? 4. So I'm going to factor it out from this side. So that's 4x squared plus 4x, and then I'm going to write a plus and leave a space here.
Can you take out a 4x?
And write an equal sign and leave a space there. No, you do not take out a 4x, you just take out the number. So factor out specifically a, which is 4.
Okay.
You always want to have plus something and plus something. So step 3 says complete the square by adding b over 2 squared to both sides and factoring. So, what is the b value here now? 4. So, I say 4 over 2 squared. So 4 over 2 is what? 2, and then I squared is 4. So I put 4 in here. However, you have to be careful, because whatever you add on one side, you have to add on to the other side. That's why we have two boxes. But we're not really adding 4. We're adding 4 times 4, because this thing is on the outside. So if we were to distribute it in, it would be 4 times 4. So over here,
oh, I get it.
That would be 16.
Okay.
So again, I'm going to repeat that. 4 over 2 squared is 4 divided by 2, squared is 2, squared is 4, so I put that in here. Now, when I add it to the other side, instead of just adding 4, I'm adding 4 times 4 because this 4 is on the outside, so I add 16. So now I have 4, and then if I factor this out, I get x plus 2 squared equals 25. An easy way to figure out what this is going to be, it's going to be always x, and then whatever this is before you square it. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, so I have plus 2. Now I just solve for x. So I want to get rid of the 4 first, so I divide both sides by 4. And that leaves me with x plus 2 squared equals 25 over 4. How do I get rid of a squared? Taking the square root. So I have a square root, and whenever I take the square root, I have to put plus or minus. So I have x plus 2 equals plus or minus, and what's the square root of 25? What's the square root of 4? Last step would be to get rid of the plus 2. How do I do that? Subtract 2. So I get x equals negative 2 plus or minus 5 over 2, and that can actually be worked out. X equals negative 2 plus 5 over 2. X equals negative 2 minus 5 over 2. So x equals negative 4 over 2 plus 5 over 2 gives me 1/2. X equals negative 4 over 2 minus 5 over 2 gives me negative 9/2. So my answers are 1/2 and negative 9/2.